So many roads to choose. We start out walking and learn to run. We've only just begun.
Everyone who is listening tonight on this weird and odd Friday. My name is Zen Okami and I'm your host for tonight's Essence of Zen After Dark. Now sadly I won't be joined by Lewis, but it's not a sad affair. He is tonight hanging out with his beloved family. So to all of the Sandovals, I say hello if you're listening. Hope you guys are having a wondrous time and hope that the weather isn't too crazy out west. Over here in Georgia, it's been quite a handful. We've had heat blazes of really hot temperatures one evening, and that night storms coming in from the south and north that basically flooded Atlanta and gave us 28 tornadoes just last night. And today, it's been freezing cold. Not technically right on the temperature of freezing, as in the freezing of water temperature, but nevertheless it's been cold. Give me one moment to turn off some automatic sounds. So instead it'll just be me, and due to work being extremely long today as well as research projects going further, I don't have topics pre-planned. Aside from a few, we're going to talk about programming languages, Xbox Scorpio, some projects going on with Essence of Zen, and some gaming news in general. So, first and foremost, what's been going on in Essence of Zen, I have to say that, to my surprise, a lot actually. Sadly, again, the Nintendo Switch recording has been pushed back due to my work and research project. But we've released 2 updated programs, one being that of Logsnoot. So if you're a Python programmer out there, much love to you. We released Logsnoot version 2.0 point something. I can't remember the exact version of the program, but it'll allow you to now have more control over settings of your project and how you would like to have logs formed with your Python code. The other project is something that, while it's been pushed, it's still in alpha. That is our Java FX EOZ soundboard, which I actually currently have open now. It's not the best program, but I like it. It allows us to have these funny sound effects now, like so. Give me one moment. And and just other sound effects like that. I'm still working on it, designing it. You can find it over at our GitHub page. It's out there, free to use, open source as always. But I digress. I do want to jump into a discussion about Microsoft and their Xbox Scorpio. If you haven't been keeping up recently, there's been a lot of buzz, a lot of news, a lot of speculation releasing over the Scorpio project. A lot of people have been pushing for a disappointment angle because, of course, they weren't able to supposedly keep all the promises that they hyped up in the previous years. And if you are an avid listener to Essence of Zen After Dark, you may have remembered that I told Lewis that I thought Microsoft was running into some problems, and I'll tell you why. In the past, Microsoft has set up their platform in various different ways, from Windows to their Windows gaming to their Xbox One to the Xbox Scorpio, or Scorpio, like the Simpsons evil villain. But in the last, I want to say 8 months to 12 months, a little bit over a year actually, their discussions and statements about the Xbox Scorpio had become lax, for better or worse in terms of statements. But recently they came out with some information. Personally, I find it a little bit lacking still, but any news is good news when it comes to a project being pushed out for an industry such as that of the gaming economy or the gaming community. Both, actually. So we now know more about the hardware, and that's really just it. They didn't say too much about what we can expect in terms of improvements over games other than pushing the limits of 4K, which most of us do not have 4K TVs. I actually have the pleasure of owning a cheap Roku smart TV in 4K from TCL. I would highly recommend some other TVs, but being the Samsung TVs having those listening ears when it's supposed to be off and it's not, I am not in a comfortable position to recommend smart TVs currently. I can only hope that my TCL is not doing what the Samsung TVs are doing, and that is being a Decepticon in disguise. But I digress. Jumping back onto the hardware for Xbox Scorpio. We now know completely, for surely, that's even a statement, what the CPU, GPU, the memory, the bandwidth of the memory, hard drive, and the optical drive, which is actually one thing that the Xbox Scorpio will have above the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. And that is essentially saying that the CPU is going to be an 8-core custom x86 clocked at 2.3 gigahertz, which may not sound too powerful to our PC gamers out there. I know 2.3 gigahertz isn't too special, especially when it comes with only, 8 cores is actually really good, but you have the discussion about threads versus cores, and of course clock speeds always matter. But in comparison to the Xbox One, the current lead, well, that being the Xbox One S, which is the slim model, that would be the 8-core custom Jaguar clocked at 1.75 gigahertz. So that actually is a significant increase in power for the CPU. And if you want to look towards the PS4 Pro, not the PS4, but the PS4 Pro, that runs 8 cores clocked at 2.1 gigahertz. So even then, the Scorpio is 0.2 gigahertz above, supposedly, allegedly, from what they state, the PS4 Pro. The GPU is at a 4 customized computing units at 1172 megahertz. That's 1172. I don't know why I said it 1172. I'm weird that way. But in comparison to the 12 GCN computing units of 853 megahertz of the Xbox One, and the Xbox One S, the slim model, is actually clocked at 914 megahertz. The PS4 has 36 improved GCN computing units at 911 megahertz. So again, supposedly Scorpio beats out the PS4 Pro. Memory is 12 gigabytes of GDDR5. The Xbox One has 8 gigabytes DDR3. The PS4 is also 8 gigabytes, but with a tallying of GDDR5. So yet again, the Xbox Scorpio beats out the power in terms of memory. The memory's bandwidth for the Scorpio is 326 gigabytes per second. The Xbox One is 68 gigabytes per second with DDR3, and the Xbox One S is 219 gigabytes per second. The PS4 is 218 gigabytes per second. The hard drive is 1 terabyte, 2.5 inch, which is comparable to all of the devices that usually come around 500 gigabytes or to 1 terabyte to even 2 terabytes. Hopefully it'll be interchangeable so we can replace the hard drive if we wish. And of course, the optical drive, one of the actually biggest components in my opinion that'll actually do the Xbox Scorpio a big favor above the PS4 Pro, is that the Project Scorpio comes with a 4K ultra high definition Blu-ray player, as in comparison to the normal Blu-ray player for both that of the Xbox One and the PS4 Pro. The Xbox One S does have 4K UHD as well, but again, Project Scorpio is going to have that more power, so you get better pixels, things being pushed better, supposedly. All this is allegedly, it's been stated by Microsoft, but we've yet to see the actual console. And of course, we at Essence of Zen is always completely ignored by Microsoft, so we don't have access to play with the hardware ourselves, which I didn't want to anyway. I don't even have a Xbox One or PS4 or PS4 Pro. I'm a PC gamer, though I will say I have been playing the Switch, which is the unlocking sounds for that, and I'll get a little bit more about that later, but I digress. I think Scorpio has potential. I really do. I think Microsoft has already missed their most prestigious mark, however. They've been marketing the Xbox One Scorpio for, if not 2 years, at least 1 year. And when they came out of the woodworks talking about it's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to be amazing. And my theory is that, some stuff went south in terms of development and progression of the actual hardware, in terms of designing the actual machine. They had to back off a bit. And I think that hurt their marketing overall. With PS4 still dominating the gaming community and the Switch on a increasing rise of popularity, I'm not sure if the Xbox Scorpio can actually make a really big impact anytime soon. They'd have to come around the holiday season with a slew of updated games that can take advantage of the extra horsepower. Otherwise, it's going to just be another Xbox One S with slightly better hardware with the same games and not seeing much improvement. That's my biggest critique when it comes to Microsoft. They have really bad stepping patterns. They'll come up with some fantastic things, and they'll find ways to screw themselves over. Look at Windows 10. I think it's a phenomenal OS. But then rumors about them trying to force advertisements into the actual OS. Them updating Microsoft Edge, the replacement to Internet Explorer. And them resetting your default choices to force you to at least check it out. No, I want to keep using Vivaldi and Chrome. I don't want to use Edge. Especially when you fail to live up to your expectations of creating a bugless, simple browser. So when it comes to their gaming console, I am legitimately worried. But again, only time will tell. And I hope they kick it into high gear and hit it hard. Because again, I have a lot of love for Microsoft. I wouldn't own the Surface Book or Windows 10 or the original Surface Pro 1 if I didn't. I'm looking in the chat now, and apparently my technical jargon is boring you. Or at least just being bloody 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 blah blah blah. I apologize. Not really. As, who was it? Not Mr. Mackey, but Mr. Garrison said in South Park, "Sorry, not sorry." That's actually a horrible thing to quote, because him during that arc in season and currently he's horrible. But yeah, time will tell when it comes to the Xbox Scorpio, and I'm just hoping for a decent design of the machine, to be honest with you. I don't know what to expect. The PS4 Pro was not a good looking machine in my opinion, and the original Xbox One was not too good looking in my opinion. However, the Xbox One S, the slim model, was actually pretty neat, pretty snazzy, if I do say so myself. Or as the kids would say, it was lit. Super lit. But if the technical jargon of Microsoft's new approaching console bores you, I'm going to have to say I'm sorry, because the next segment of my random discussions, unless you have any questions to ask in the comment section currently, as we do this live, that is going to be my favorite programming language. And I'm going to tell you why this discussion is coming up for this particular podcast. It's not because Lewis is off with his family showcasing his glorious Death Star, which he's so proud of. Never invited me to the Death Star. Never asked if I want to blow up a planet, if I wanted to blow Alderaan into smithereens. But okay, whatever, Lewis. But it's essentially what's been going on with work, and I won't go into critical details about my job and what we've been working on, but as well as what's been going on in the communications over on the EOZ Slack channel. I am not old. I'm olding. It's a difference. But what's been going over at the EOZ Slack channel was a discussion about the languages that we use. So if you did not know, I basically work with Lewis, in not as a job, but like for Essence of Zen on the website. Lewis is the mastermind behind the engine that is Node.js based for essenceofzen.org. He's the one that has the core mechanics of the site built upon the routing, the loading of data dynamically, and the overall way the site works. I help out with the back end a little bit as well, but I'm mostly front end content providing and designing. So, nevertheless, Lewis, in his personal job, is a web developer. So, again, Node.js, React, Angular, web applications, you name it. And he's actually quite good at it, if I do say so myself, to boost my dear friend, my dear hermano. He's really good at what he does. And with other friends to the group, that being Tom. If you're listening, Tom, hello, Tom. How are you doing, Tom? I love your icon of the panther, Tom. Also, Tom is a very simple name, Tom. Where's Jerry, Tom? But no, I sometimes feel a little bit left out because while I also do a little bit of web development, my main angle is that of like desktop-oriented applications. If not hardware. I am a hardware concentration major, but let's not get into discussion about my university and their lack of support for hardware. Anywho's, so my two favorite languages, I would have to say, aside from using C for hardware, because C is so glorious. C and C++, glorious stuff. Assembly, love it, learn it, embrace it. Hexadecimal, it's your best friend. Binary, you'll hate it. But in terms of higher level languages, I have to say Java and Python. Now, a lot of people like to argue between Java and Python because Java is so fast and it's so awesome with its virtual machines. And Python is so much slower, but it's so much more versatile and being simplistic to use, learn, and integrate in almost anything. It's almost like two different walks of life, especially when Java is based on the heritage of C, and Python's kind of comes from a more functional basis. A lot of people usually use Python to write scripts, which, of course, generates the horrible lingo of that of script kiddies. But it is still powerful nevertheless, and I, of course, love Python. If that wasn't evident enough by my personal project turned EOZ project, LogSnoot. LogSnoot, the logging program for your programs that written in Python. He has the snoot that is to be booped when he finds a snoop. Go check it out. I highly recommend you use it. Not just because I made it, but because it's actually quite useful, if I do say so myself. And simplistic to use and set up. But most people, especially when we had our beginning series over on the YouTube channel for programming tutorials, wanted to learn how to become better programmers, or how to become programmers in general, and oftentimes the question, what language should I start with, is the most reoccurring question there is. Now, I will say we will jump back on making those tutorials, and again, I do apologize for the lack of content. I'm trying to graduate. If that's not enough of a excuse or a reason or a rationale, whether you pick your choice or not, I want to graduate. I want my degree. And that's why I've been focusing more on that than creating video content. And Lewis wants to keep his job. Not the Essence of Zen job, but his job, his daily job. And that's why he hasn't been able to make more content lately as well. But I digress. If you want to become a programmer, personally, I say start with Python. It's really easy to get into. It's cross-platform, and it's not overbearing. And the program, or the programming language rather, isn't as simplistic enough to say it's useless. It's actually quite powerful. It has a lot of APIs you can connect with. As a matter of fact, our Essence of Zen Alpha Wolf Twitter account is actually a bot written in Python. I've yet to update it to run autonomously through a Raspberry Pi, but I'm getting there. So I would say go into Python, learn the basic elements of programming, the conditional branches, the if statements, the loops, while, for, do while, etc. That's kind of actually funny because Python doesn't have for loops. Well, it doesn't have the traditional C-style for loops. They have the for of an item inside of a collection type of deal, but it's not the for your index equaling 0 so long as index is less than a target, and then incrementing said index with the plus plus followed by your set actions. It's still rather neat. So learn the basics, get good, son, or get wrecked, practice in other different languages, and basically form your craft via the concepts of programming. Once you know how to do algorithms, once you know the basic concepts of using modulos and divisions to cut away certain increments or certain sections of a decimal number, once you learn how to operate shifts and mask with binary, you'll be able to transfer those same ideologies to different programming languages. The only thing you have to learn is a new syntax, which can within itself be a chore and a headache and frustration, and will contain a lot of sleepless nights. And you'll probably have a lot of people calling you a workaholic because you're trying to figure something out, and then you'll probably miss the ball completely. You get sidetracked on a completely new concept, learn that instead, and go about your merry way. So yeah, that's my advice of becoming a better programmer. Just start, practice, learn, apply.
Yay!
Well, someone's happy. Moving on, however, and again, this is very unorthodox of the After Dark format. Or is it? Am I following the format subconsciously? I'm not sure. But I want to talk about Mass Effect Andromeda. So, where to start? Personally, I'm a big fan of the original Mass Effect series. My father was a big fan of the Mass Effect books. Now, a lot of people hated the ending to the Mass Effect trilogy, the original Shepard, or Fem Shep or Mel Shep, depending on your choices, outcome, with the three choices not being too diverse and being enough to make a major impact of difference. While I could understand those arguments, those dissatisfaction towards the ending, I gotta say it wasn't anywhere near horrible as people deemed it to be, because the entire point of Mass Effect was having your Shepard be different than other people's Shepard, and how your Shepard had a unique journey compared to other Shepards. And even if the outcome became super similar, the journey is what was different. And I think that was a very nice concept. You had a very intriguing story, awesome characters. To this day, Garrus is considered one of the best wingmen you can ever have, or romantic interest, depending on again your choices. To be fair, I do think Garrus was an amazing individual. So was Jack, the biotic woman who had the tattoos and shaved head. She was actually really cool. She reminded me of Riddick from Chronicles of Riddick, aka the bald guy Vin Diesel from Pitch Black. Or was it Pitch Dark? I think it's Pitch Black. I'm not sure anymore. I digress. Good characters, good stories, compelling interaction of overarching arcs with sub stories and dark moments and great moments, and it really pulled you in. Apparently, Andromeda does none of that. Now, I have yet to play Andromeda. I'm currently replaying through Mass Effect 1 to 2 to 3, and then I will play Andromeda. But with the slew of bugs, animation glitches, problems, and overall lack of actual quality, people have been butchering and complaining and just shouting at this game. Well, BioWare has heard the pleas, and they've released a major patch that fixes some of the animation issues, some of the character issues, but there's only so much you can patch when, according to certain players, majority players anyway, when the game at its core is flawed. Now, I personally, from what I've seen, and I've been avoiding spoilers and etc. I've just been seeing spoiler-free reviews, people's thoughts and opinions, and the opening aspects of the game. I think I will enjoy the game. I won't enjoy it as much as the original trilogy, because I'm a hipster, and nothing is better than the OG trilogy of anything. I'm not really a hipster. Don't quote me on that, and I can't back that up. But I do think Andromeda will still have its positives, its fun gameplay, and overall shaping your character to be what you want. Now, I'm not going to get into the other quote-unquote controversial aspects of things like character creation, where people will say that, there's a problem here, even though it's there. It's hard to... I'm just going to leave it because I don't want to open that can of worms, especially when I think that it's baseless. But I digress. Which is like, what, the fourth time that I'm digressing? It's really weird, but I don't have Lewis here to bounce off of, so I apologize. Anywho, I'm looking forward to playing Mass Effect Andromeda, playing the new characters, having my character, who I have yet to determine what I'm going to name them. My current Shepherd of Mass Effect 1 through 3 is named Ori, which is based off the Nigerian god of destiny, because I think that fits for the whole trilogy arc of Shepherd. Well, someone says, and I quote, "No one proclaims themselves a hipster." Sadly, hipsters, or some hipsters do. Now, I do know some legitimate hipsters who fit the definition or the label, the look, the brand hipster quite well, but they'll never call themselves that, nor do they actually fall into the actions of stereotypical hipsterness. But my good friend, someone who I consider as like the other me, like a brother, if you will, who had same birthday, but kind of like the polar opposite. I'm black, he's white. I'm Android, he's Mac, or he's Apple rather, and etc. He's kind of hipsterous. Got the nice arm tattoos. Wears his hair well, he changes his hair sometimes, but I digress. He's what I would consider like a legitimate hipster without properly being the stereotypical hipster. And if you're listening, dude, you know you're a hipster. You are. But anyways though. So my Mass Effect 1 through 3 Shepherd is currently named Ori, based off the Nigerian god of destiny. I'm not sure what I'm going to name the character for Andromeda. Possibly the one Nigerian god pair for the twins. I think that probably fit nicely. I'm not sure yet. Not sure. Oh, thank you. I actually appreciate the compliment. But yeah, that's just my general thoughts on Mass Effect Andromeda. I can't wait to play it, despite all the negative stuff centered around it. It'll be fine. As another update to what's been going on at Essence of Zen, I have been talking with Gabe a lot lately. If you do not know, if you go to essenceofzen.org/hashtag or the pound symbol, depending on where you're from or what era you're from, team, so again, essenceofzen.org/hashtag team, you can see that Gabe is one of the original artists of Essence of Zen. He recently came up with an awesome, hilarious design for the Essence of Zen gnomes. Or I should probably call them gnomes if I'm gonna like based them off the Linux, terminology. If you use Linux and you don't say GNOME and you say GNOME, we have an issue. It is just as bad, and yes, I'm going to bring this up, as people who say GIF when it is actually GIF. Come fight me. But no. The design for the new gnomes are actually really cool. We have to figure out the coloring mechanics, the color scheme, the palette for the designs, and I'm still working on the new banner artwork. Again, trying to graduate. So a lot of stuff has been put on the back burner. But in general, a lot has been made. Jack, the official Jack, because there's a lot of YouTube Jacks, but this Jack is our Jack, so he's the Jack. Created some nice, awesome assets using the EOZ logo, the blue shield and key. If you didn't know, that's what I deem the blue orb. The blue orb is the shield, and the black strap around it is the key. So shield and key. You'll be seeing that whenever we can film the Switch review, edit it, and get it out. But all I can say is 4K particles. A lot of particles. But speaking on our adventure in terms of YouTube and the channel as a whole, we're actually currently at 500 and I think, was it 89 subscribers? 589 subscribers. So to all of the new subscribers, hello, I love you. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting us. Sorry that we haven't been able to make a lot of content in a while. Again, and I cannot stress this enough, I'm trying to graduate. But yes, a few friends of mine have asked me what I think about the current platform of YouTube, the direction of YouTube, and if we're going to stay on YouTube. And to just answer that question, if you probably don't even care, to be honest, because if you're not on YouTube, you're not on YouTube. If you're probably somewhere else, if you're somewhere else, you're still out there. It doesn't really matter where your content is, so long as the content is viewable. But yes, we will be staying on YouTube. We're going to make that Patreon. We're going to put our eggs in multiple baskets, of course, but we are staying on YouTube. A lot of people have been really critical of the YouTube company and their decisions based on how they treat ad revenue, flags, content strikes, and etc. And I understand the general audiences as well as content creators' complaints, concerns, and dissatisfaction with it. But again, I have to stress that YouTube is a company, one that has to stay afloat, being the platform for millions. I think millions. It has to be at least 1 million. I would say far past 1 million actually. Videos stored in various different formats, different resolutions, from was it 360, 320? I think 360 to 4K, to some content even being in 8K. That's a lot of storage. That's a lot of servers, a lot of upkeep, and it's not cheap. The company of YouTube within itself isn't even a profitable platform. They don't make a profit. They use their revenue to offset the costs, and Google shovels in income from other aspects, or I should say Alphabet shovels in income from other aspects to keep YouTube going. And currently, that's all we have right now, because there's no reasonable competition for YouTube. I mean, there's vid.me, which the Essence of Zen channel is actually on as well, but it's not on the scale, size, or even build of YouTube. It's not yet ready to be a direct competition. You also have Twitch.tv, which is getting into the saved videos on demand market, but they're still kind of pushing towards gaming, which is totally fine. But if you know our content at EOZ, it is a mixed bag channel. So things from gaming to technology to tutorials to geek culture and to random podcast banter. So yeah, keeping all that in mind, I think it's perfectly reasonable for YouTube to try to keep their advertisers happy. Because if you're getting everyone to pull out of your platform, out of your product, you are no longer having that offset to keep the servers maintained. You're going to start, and I don't think they'll lose enough money to make a massive impact on Alphabet/Google as a whole. But no businessman, company, or board for a company in their right mind would be okay with losing, even more money than what they are now. So they're trying to keep their advertisers happy. To keep the advertisers happy, they have to follow what the advertisers want. And sometimes that goes against the grains of the creators on the platform. Perfect example, I was a big fan of the Google Plus integration. I personally found it to be really useful. That's also because our channel isn't at like 2 million subscribers. So I guess different problems, different solutions. But when different markets or different sites complained, they responded. And in that case, they responded for the use of content creators as well as the users and the viewers of the community. But this time, they have to focus on the advertisers, because if they lose the advertisers, they lose money. They lose money, they have to cut back on servers. They have to cut back on servers. That lowers the quality and compression of the videos. They do that, then you start seeing the regression of YouTube. You do that, it pisses off the creators and the users even more so than what simply catering to the advertisers would do. And then you're basically regressing into a backward cycle of degradation. And I doubt that YouTube wants that to happen. Now, I don't think we're even close to that being a reality, and you have a bunch of creators putting titles like "The Ends of YouTube," "The YouTube Apocalypse." Could this be the unforetold end of YouTube? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. But no, it's not. It's not, and people are going to roll with the punches. They're gonna be in the boat as it rocks, but it's not going to tip the boat over. Rock the boat. Don't let the boat over. Rock the boat. No. They're going to roll with it, and it's going to be fine. And I want to say in 2 to 3 months, once they reconfigure their algorithms, reconfigure their deals with the advertisers, people are going to just roll like nothing ever happened. Because if you look at the cycle and the pattern of people's use with YouTube, there's been drastic changes before. People complained, and people rolled with it. Whether or not you or I feel that that's the proper move to do is besides the point. You, as well as everyone else in the community, have a decision, an option, and a choice of stating, will I continue to watch the content? Yes or no. If no, am I going to go somewhere else? Possibly. That's your choice. That's your decision. It is yours to make. Moving on into comic book entertainment news. Apparently, certain heads over at Marvel for the comic books are unhappy with the sales of their comics. Excuse me. I could go some for coffee right now. But they've been blaming the dips in sales on quote-unquote diversity. Now, for the most part, I've actually been really intrigued by what the Marvel comics have been doing, and less so on what their movies have been doing. But for the majority, it's the opposite. And I get it, I understand it, I'm not complaining about it. But I do have the same agreement in saying that they probably did rush the drastic changes for the Marvel comic books. Now, again, I'm in the boat that actually like the new heroes, the new characters who are taking on the new mantles. I don't think you had to kill off characters like. Well, let me not spoil it. Certain characters did die, and I don't think they had to die. I think they could have like retired, passed on the mantle, and just been smooth. Yeah, exactly. The quote unquote diversity is killing comics talk. So no. Diversity is not killing comics. In fact, diversity has been some of the best things that happened to Marvel. When Marvel brought out Miles Morales, their Spider-Man things like shot up dramatically because Miles Morales is an interesting, awesome character. When they brought in Lady Thor, it was that was a bit weird. Not because of it being a lady, but because Jane Foster took on the name Thor. In that case, it wasn't a mantle. Like, you actually have the person who is named Thor, and then you have Jane taking on the name Thor. I would have much preferred if she just became Jane, the wielder of Mjolnir, and I think a lot of people had that same point of view. But of course, you also have the I don't want this person to be a woman. I don't want this person to be a person of color. And you have that vitriol seeping into the conversation as well. And I'm going to be really, really short on that discussion because, in my opinion, it is straight vitriol. But when you have the decision to not only turn Captain America an avid American icon for comic books who was completely centered around being anti-Nazi, join the enemy of being that of a Nazi, which personally I didn't find too bad because I figured they do 7 chapters and then change it back. They're kind of still rolling with that story arc, and I think it is being dragged on too long. So to see Captain America, an avid anti-Nazi hero, kind of being in that realm for this long, it is kind of tiring. But at the same time, what's been going on with Sam Wilson, aka Falcon, who is now the new Captain America, I find that story arc to be absolutely amazing. The civil rights connection to it, the discussion on racism and complaints on diversity and politics is phenomenal. I mean, if you picked up the Sam Wilson comic books and read the first, I want to say 8 chapters, it's some of the best writing I've seen to date. And let me read the comments. They should point the fingers at comic book store owners since they're the ones that decide. That is true too. Comic book store owners not properly taking in and showcasing certain certain volumes and chapters of certain comic books is an issue. Of course, there's the argument there of saying that they're going to try to increase their sales as much as possible, and of course, I on the side of saying that's mostly BS because you can have the heavy sellers as well as the new up and coming. If it's not doing so well, if a comic book isn't doing well, you having it out front isn't going to make a difference in terms of your revenue, because if you still have the heavy hitters, people are still going to buy those. And if someone sees a comic book that is new, upcoming, and not as popular, if they don't buy it, okay, and if they do buy it, that's more money in your pocket. But that's getting into the personal disdain of an owner's ideals of their market bracket and etc. But back on topic with what's been going on with Sam Wilson is phenomenal. But then you have people who will say, I don't want politics in my comic books. To which I have to say, WTF? Do you not know the original origins of comic books? You need not only look down the street to see the hero, Captain America, the living embodiment of political standards in a comic book, embodied into a character, a fictional American icon character. Nothing but politics. The infamous slash famous cover of Captain America punching Hitler in the face. And you think now the tides of comic books is quote unquote becoming political? Comic books have always been political. They've always been a reflection of the times that they are in. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. That's the same reason why Captain America was killed off and later brought back, but killed off. The saddened and emotional comic book with Marvel and the 9/11 issue, which did get kind of weird when you saw Doctor Doom in tears, but we're not here to critique that particular chapter, but the point still stands. Comic books are by nature political, whether you realize it, acknowledge it, accept it, or not. They've always been. Of course, you have your fantastical moments, such as, like Marvel heroes usually siding in with the more Norse mythological aspects. If you look at things like Namor, the Marvel version of Aquaman, Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy, and their cosmic relations to that. And then you look over at DC and their more Greek and Egyptian mythos, that being of like Aquaman being Poseidon, Diana being the goddess Diana, who later becomes the goddess of war because she takes Ares' head and takes his title. Flash being that of Hermes, Batman being that of the mortal. Very similar to like the not directly Homer's Odysseys, but basically the mortal of the group, and Superman being the highest tier of the quote-unquote pantheon of gods. Of course, you're going to have those fantastical elements to it. And if you're wondering about the Egyptian aspects, Shazam / Black Adam, who came from the fictional country of, was it Khazad? I forget the pronunciation of it. Ties into that of the mythical Egyptian tie-ins. Black Adam gets his stuff from like Ra, Anubis, and some other stuff, and then Shazam, who's Captain Marvel, gets his stuff from more of the mystical Solomon aspects. But I digress. You're gonna have your fantastical elements in it, sure, but you are completely crazy and tone deaf if you think now is the only time that comic books have become political. I honestly don't know what other way to express that concept. You need not only look at the most recent DC movies. Man of Steel, BVS, ties into a lot of political aspects that are going on today. If you remember in BVS, Superman landing, and they had signs like, "You're an illegal immigrant, you're an alien, go back home, leave this country." There's a reason why Zack Snyder decided to put those things in during the times that those movies came out. But I'm sorry, there's just been a lot of talk about the Marvel comic books and their diversity, and I think people are looking at the wrong aspects, because it's not diversity that's been killing it. It's not giving the diversity the fair chance of good story writings. I love Riri Williams, and I think she's a fantastic character. But I do think the way they introduced her was far too rushed, and they did not give her the proper depth to the character. Her depth and her core came much later. When you see her dismiss the invitation to join the Avengers because she says, "No, everyone is horrible. The Avengers are horrible right now. The Captain Marvel side is horrible right now. Everyone sucks. I'm not gonna pick a side because I'm not dumb enough to side myself with the lesser of one or two evils, because a lesser of one or two evils is still evil. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna remain independent." And I was just like, yes, Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. That was one of the best aspects of her character development arc to date. Amazing. I do like Amadeus Cho, the new Incredible Hulk. I do not like the way he was introduced either, though. They kind of shoehorned him in. He was really excited to take on the Hulk's power, whereas Bruce Banner was always such a pessimist, going, "Oh no, I'm so whiny, yada yada yada. Let me try to fix my Hulk this way, and I became slightly weaker but super smart as Hulk, Mr. Fix-It, the Mafia Grey Hulk." so stupid. But then you also had them showing love to old characters who did not get a lot of spotlight, such as Squirrel Girl, who is completely to make you laugh. But she is still an amazing character. The way that she interacts with the civilians on the streets and etc. So freaking lovable. I love her design. So freaking lovable. She's like Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob embodied into a comic book as a human character who, if you have not read old comics, she beat Thanos. Believe it or not. So yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of history behind characters, the implementation of said characters, and so much more that I think people are just like ignoring or being so close-minded, or to put the blame on every small aspect of just saying, oh no, this is because this is what they get for trying to make more women or more heroines and more heroes and heroines of color. I'm sorry, but that's not the problem. That's not. And to be fair, I got to give Marvel credit, because they didn't just take a character and change them. They didn't just take actual Thor and make it Thorette and make, you know, Thor like black. They came and grabbed other characters and used the passing of the torch. And this has always happened in comic books. You think Barry Allen is the first Flash? People are just learning about Jay Garrick from the TV series. You think Hal Jordan was the first Green Lantern? Nah. And he's definitely not the last human Green Lantern either. You think Superman died and BVS was like for the first time? No. I'm sorry, I get really passionate about my comic books. I really do. I really do. Let me read the comments real quick. Let me not read that out loud. Yeah. I remember when they started to introduce more gay characters into comic books. I remember they made the original Green Lantern, the one that came before Hal Jordan, not Kyle Rayner. It was before they actually made Green Lantern into a corps, like a space galactic police thing. Before that, there was snap. Let me see if I can find it. First Green Lantern. Also, I've just been sent the image of Tony Stark hugging the Tom Holland's Peter Parker, and the caption saying, "Have you considered that maybe this is the first hug from a father figure that Peter has had since Uncle Ben died?" And then the follow-up comment from Robert Downey Jr. is, "All this just to bang Aunt May." I love Robert Downey Jr. Alan Scott, that was the first ever Green Lantern, Alan Scott, and it was more of a mystical thing rather than a, intergalactic space police of big-headed blue people, the Guardians. But yeah, Alan Scott was the first ever Green Lantern, and when he was forgotten for like ever since the Silver Age of comic books. But they had brought him back, I think either before or after the New 52 for DC. And they revealed that he was gay. And it wasn't like this big old, raw. It was just, hey, this character's back, and he's I'm not sure if he was getting married. I think he was getting married. And that was it. That was literally it. When they did in my opinion, one of the best personalized, on a personal level, transition for a character ever. One of the best. When they went through the story arc of Harley Quinn becoming a little bit sane again. Not like she didn't stop being crazy, but she brought it to herself to realize that Joker was using and abusing her. And she left Joker and just kind of like accidentally started this relationship with Poison Ivy. It was so fluid. It was so it progressed over a long period of time. It wasn't just chapter 1 she's now gay, or chapter 1 she's now queer as in bisexual. It was, she had a big personal critical character development point that brought her down to a major low. Poison Ivy was there. They've been friends since then, and it gradually worked into a way that brought in a romance. And it was never like shoved in your face. And I remember when the politics of gay characters was brought up in like news media, and Marvel and DC started like to get scared, and it started the writers strike when the writers of Batwoman was like, no, Batwoman is a gay character, and if you want us to not make her gay or you want us to change her straight, we will not write any more of the story. And they put their foot down, and guess what? DC said, our bad, you're right, keep writing it. And then boom, Batwoman making more appearances in the DC animated movies, the comic books, the Batman Incorporated, the Batman family, and she's an awesome character. She is, you know, has a really twisted background like most Batman family characters. But yeah. And over on the Teen Titans side, they brought in a new character. They didn't take one of your beloved classic characters that you, well, they're not you, but a lot of people hate that it happens. So they brought in a new character, a young Hispanic male by the name of, or his hero name was Bonker. And he had abilities similar to that of Green Lanterns, but it was like a purple construct creation type of thing. And he was gay. No big deal. People had a problem with it, but it was never forced in your face. He just made comments about how his boyfriend was in the hospital and that he went to pray for his boyfriend. And that was really much it. I don't, let me not say I don't understand. I understand where it's coming from. But it's a real stupid hate and reactionary thing when it comes to people flipping out about one or two gay characters or a few new characters of color, and the passing of a torch, as if these characters were always the original. I cannot fathom it. And people who got mad at Sam Wilson for picking up the mantle of Captain America. Punisher was once Captain America. Was Thor? Someone else was that? I think Logan was actually Captain America for a period in time. Bucky, the Winter Soldier, became Captain America for a moment. So yeah, why is it a problem when Sam Wilson becomes Captain America? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Getting a little heated. Let me cool off. It's actually been a long time since I've like just ranted in favor of Marvel, and I don't want them to feel discouraged for the path that they've chosen, because they've doubled down and kept pushing, and now they're just like having this one person come out with disdain for the direction. I just want them to slow down, take their time, and to give these characters, these new characters taking on old mantles, the time and the elegance and the craft of the story that they deserve. Because that's what they're failing on. It's not the characters. The characters are cool. The characters are interesting. Their introductory stories are very lackluster, and that's what I think is a problem in terms of quality control. People are still gonna hate one way or another, but personally, they can do better in terms of giving them deeper, more supported stories. Everybody and their mama was Captain America. Very true. I am a DC fanboy. I love Marvel just as much, but I do like DC more. And the reasons why is because before this new route for Marvel comic books, DC has been far more on the edge with, more to earth realism. When they brought in McDuffie's icon, and the whole set of chapters about how he shows up to help the police, and they point guns at him, and his sidekick Rocket says, "I bet if you were Superman, you wouldn't get this kind of treatment." Stuff like that. The dark tales of like the effects that criminals have on certain civilians in the Batman stories, and how Batman has to talk certain people through hard times, and you get to see this more softened side of Batman, when he's talking to like children who were victims of seeing like their parents killed, or like trafficking, and it just seems like DC usually targets more relevant issues, and sometimes that gets them in trouble, because sometimes people will say they don't want to be reminded of certain horrific things in a society. But I think a lot of times, sometimes, and not always, DC handles it in a way that gives people hope of saying, I can get through this. One example is the All-Star Superman, where one woman is going through so many negative things in her life, and she's on the edge of a building getting ready to take her life, and Superman flies up and she shouts, "Don't touch me! If you try to force me down, I'll jump." And Superman just says, "No, I'm not gonna make you do anything you don't want to do. I'm gonna stay right here, and I'm gonna wait. When you're ready to talk, we'll talk." And it shows the progression of like the day turning into the evening, turning into night. And then she said they put a spotlight on her. The cops on the floor put a spotlight on her, and she asked Superman, "Can you tell them to turn off the light?" Superman looks down, uses his heat vision, and destroys the cable to the spotlight, and the light goes out, and she says, "Thank you." And then, the sun comes up, and she goes, "I'm ready to talk." And Superman just sits down, and they have a conversation, and he tells her how strong she is, and says that, yeah, while you may go through these difficult times, and you may not want to take these medications, you may not want to go to therapy, look where you started, and look where you are now, and all the good things in between. And this is a momentary lapse of weakness. And she, stands up, and she's like, I'm not one who can fit those shoes and understand what it may feel like, but to just see writers try to portray positivity of real life negative aspects, I think is something that people take for granted. And then to now see Marvel do it in a giant bulk, I'm more than happy to back them in that decision. Yeah, it's not perfect, and they have ways or things they need to improve on. But I honestly think that as an overall move, having characters like Riri Williams and Jane Foster becoming the new Thor, and still keeping Thor didn't go nowhere. He's still around, so you get like the best of two worlds, and he's wielding his own in actual Norse mythology. Thor's original weapon, Mjolnir, was not his first weapon. So he's gone back to using, I think it's called like Yalmar. It's like Jalmare, something like that, Jalmare. And it's like this battle axe glaive thing, and it's amazing. And I'm like, how did you get? Okay, I digress. But seeing that happens in the comic books compared to the movies with things like Tilda Swanson's Ancient One and Ant-Man's T.I. and Pena, the Mexican actor, in the roles that they played, I'm just kind of taken aback by the movie sometimes, and I don't know. I don't know. Wow, that is actually not the best way to end the podcast, but we are, on that edge. So it's about that hour that we wrap this up. So, I thank you for listening to me ramble on about various different topics today. Hopefully that it'll be me and Lewis back next week. We can tackle our usual format. I can have a cup of coffee and sip as I talk very seldom into the mic like I'm an old guy on NPR. Like I'm Frasier. But no, I hope you all enjoyed the podcast. I hope I did a wonderful job. What's that? What? Oh, stop! You're too kind. You're too kind. Oh no! Continue. Thank you. But that is going to be the end of our podcast tonight, guys. Feel free to check out our website, essenceofzen.org, which we're still pushing updates to. Again, for the nth time, I'm trying to graduate. So a lot of things are on hold, but they'll be back soon enough. But I will see you all next week, hopefully with Lewis. Feel free to check out our videos on our channel, Essence of Zen. And as well as Essence of Zen Gaming, or Essence of Gaming, excuse me. You can find me over at Twitter at Zenokami, that's ZenOOKAMI, as well as Instagram, as well as our Facebook page, facebook.com/official Essence of Zen. Am I missing one? There's Google Plus. And I'm also on Snapchat, but I don't use it much, so don't try to snap me. They call it snaps. Snap. I don't know. I don't know what you kids are doing nowadays. But I'll see you guys later. But until then, as always, take care.